You know, I walked into this movie with high hopes and ended up just walking out disappointed and frustrated. I don't know, man, maybe it's just me. Man, I mean, the trailer made this movie look like a bunch of ridiculous fun, and we're gonna see some crazy R-rated shit. And yet, you know, it's like it half delivered. I don't want to hop on the negative bandwagon just yet. I'm just thoroughly frustrated thinking about everything that happened through this movie. Man, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth because there's just so much potential here. We follow Paul Rudd, who's a single dad, to Jenna Ortega, and they're currently on a trip to, I guess, Paul Rudd's boss's mansion or whatever that's in the deep mountains or something. I'm not exactly too sure about what all the details are as to why he's going all the way out there to sign some kind of agreement, partnership, or whatever with his boss, but I guess they work at the same firm, or Paul Rudd works at the firm that this guy owns. That guy being Richard E. Grant, who is Paul Rudd's boss and is currently dying of some kind of cancer. Cancer? Tumors? Something like that. But somewhere along the way, as Paul Rudd is trying to navigate through these mountains, he unfortunately crashes into a unicorn. Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega decide to take the body of this dead unicorn to his boss, who then decides to maybe exploit the properties of this mystical creature. The miraculous curative properties, as according to what Google says in the overview, the blood and meat of this unicorn can basically heal anything in the world, so they are gonna try to figure out how to make a profit out of this. That is until things take a very dark turn with some other unicorns who are very angry about the death of their baby, and now commence a horror comedy featuring unicorns killing people in the most brutal ways possible. Seems like a fun and ridiculous turn off your brain type of movie, right? Well, unfortunately, not for me. I can't get over the fact that these characters couldn't have been written more stupid. This movie seems to have almost every single exhausting horror trope that we've seen a million times before in so many other terrible horror movies ever. Turning it into a comedy does not mean you get away from it unless you're actively making fun of that cliche, that trope, that stereotype. It's fucking annoying. I'm so fed up with this bullshit. Oh my god, like, I don't want to seem like some nitpicky bitch here, but I'm gonna be that guy. I love Paul Rudd, but it's so obviously just Paul Rudd in this movie. It's like they're not even trying to give him some range to play off of. There's a lot of potential here with Paul Rudd's character, but instead he's written like some incompetent father who is so desperate to take care of his daughter that he's willing to make even the dumbest decisions ever. He is a horrible father, and he never listens to Jenna Ortega. All he ever does is suck the dick of his boss. I ain't trying to say that this dynamic couldn't have been fun or interesting, but in this movie, how it was written, it just fucking pissed me off. And oh my god, Jenna Ortega's character might even be more offensive because they unfortunately do the trope where a character just so coincidentally manages to find all the information they need to help, you know, explain everything that's going on, because we need that in a horror comedy. You know, it's like those scenes or sequences in every single terrible horror movie where the main characters just so happen to know someone that can help explain their current situation. That's exactly what happens with Jenna Ortega. She just does a quick little Google search and oh my god, coincidentally, I found the tapestries that can help explain the unicorn lore that is so specific to their situation. I know what you're gonna say. It's a horror comedy. They can get away with it. No, they can't fucking not. I must reiterate here, I understand why there are dumb characters in a movie. It's what makes it into a horror movie. But when our main characters are also just as dumb, just as incompetent, it makes it super fucking hard to make me want to strive and fight for them, you know, to believe in them. I found myself having an extremely difficult time just trying to believe the current situation that they're in, because the characters just can't seem to figure out what the fuck they need to do in order to survive this situation. Also, there is something that happens around fucking halfway into the movie where a character is just like, you know what, Paul Rudd, why don't you come with me into the forest in search of this unicorn, even though you have basically no survival skills whatsoever or combat experience. Fuck it, here's a gun. Let's go find this unicorn. I may be one of the most richest men on the planet and could hire more militia, more experienced mercenaries to come out here and help us, but fuck it, let's just go out, on our own. Again, there is so much potential with these ridiculous sequences, and yet it just never pays off. The comedy just doesn't land. That's not to say it didn't land at all throughout this entire movie. There were definitely bits, definitely moments where I had myself a chuckle. I was having a great time with Will Poulter. That guy is fucking fantastic.
Griff! Forget it!
As a matter of fact, the entire cast here is putting in some good work. You can tell they're having a blast, having a good time, and some of the jokes are funny. Some of the things in here are a whole lot of fun. But goddamn, does this 2-hour movie just feel so goddamn sluggish and annoying and frustrating because of just how poorly written this plot is, how poorly written the overall narrative is. At some point, I was just laughing at scenes that I don't think was meant to be funny, but this movie was just so damn ridiculous that I couldn't help myself. I'm pretty sure the couple sitting next to me was just like, what the fuck is up with this guy? I mean, it's just a fucking movie. It's not all bad. I really love the design of the unicorns here. I think it's unique, it's different, and it adds a different flavor to this world. Jenna Ortega is definitely trying really hard to carry this movie, but everything is so poorly written that I didn't believe anything for a second. I just found myself constantly frustrated with her character, with Paul Rudd, and the fact that she just can't seem to fucking do anything useful. You can either be ridiculously fun or ridiculously annoying, and this movie is juggling between these two things. For me, at least. At the end of the day, this is just wasted potential. There is so much fun to be had with this concept, and yet they just throw it out the door with some of the most ridiculous, annoying tropes ever in a horror movie, especially in a horror comedy. There's a good chance that you folks out there will have a much better time than I did. And if you do, or did, I'm happy for you. I'm glad you were able to just turn off your brain and have a blast with this movie. I couldn't stop just thinking about how the characters could simply do the most obvious thing and all of this would have been resolved. It's a solid production that looks pretty good. It's R-rated as fuck. We get to see some gnarly R-rated gory guts shit. But for the first half of this movie, I was just wondering, is it PG-13 or rated R? Because they would sometimes just cut away from the R-rated shit. You know, they cut away from us seeing a guy getting his head basically fucking squashed. Man, it just feels like this movie just didn't know how to commit to the R rating. I don't know. Or maybe they just had some issues with the budget and just couldn't show what was actually happening. Again, we did get to see some R-rated shit and guts spilling out, but that is no excuse for all those other scenes where they just cut away from it. Either commit to the R rating or just get the fuck out, dude. I don't want to deal with this cutting away bullshit. Alright, that's enough of me. I'll catch you guys next time.
Silver packages.